Welcome back to Questing Beast. I'm Ben. Today we're taking a look at Mausritter, which is a sword and whiskers role-playing game by Isaac Williams and published by Losing Games. Before we get started though, quick shout out to Minty, my most recent patron over on Patreon. Thank you so much, Minty, for helping to support the channel. Also, everyone remember to subscribe and hit that bell icon below if you'd like to stay updated with new videos that I make reviewing these types of role-playing games. So let's look at what we get in Mausritter here. Now, from what I understand, this is mostly a print and play type of game. He sent me a physical copy of it, which was very nice of him. Although, as you can tell from the design and construction here, this is the sort of game that could very easily just be printed, folded, stapled, and then you'd be good to go. Just get some yellow cardstock and you can easily replicate the physical copy that I have here. I'm not totally sure if the creator is still giving or selling these physical copies, but you can make your own. We have a quick reference here on the back, which is really great. I wish more games would do this. This reminds me of Mothership. The Mothership game did something very similar. Let's go what we get inside here. So right away, we can see that there is a really great attention to detail here in terms of the layout. The inside covers are being used, which is great. We have gear and prices here. Reminds me a little bit of Knave in terms of the layout. I think there was a bit of influence from that. It says Mausritter is a role-playing game. You and 2 to 5 friends play make-believe to create a shared world. The rules help keep the story you tell consistent, interesting, and challenging. So basically, you are a mouse, but you are a mouse-sized mouse. So there's definitely influence here from Mice and Mystics and Mouse Guard. Also Into the Odd for most of the core rules. I think I would basically consider this a hack of Into the Odd, but with a lot more detail added in terms of what you can do. Goblin Punch for the magic and the 3x usage. So basically this uses the magic system from the Goblin Laws of Gaming, or the GLOG, which is a system that you can find online. Inspiration from Knave, which is a game I wrote, for characters defined by inventories. Mothership for densely packed layouts. Moonhop for just going and making your game. Last Gasp Grimoire for arts and crafts inventories, and that's really cool. We'll get into that in a second. And Coins and Scrolls for my reintroduction to old school D&D. I really love how it has this sort of ludography at the beginning, so you can immediately see what influences this has. Making a mouse. So, like I mentioned before, great attention to detail when it comes to layout, because making a mouse is all on one page. The backgrounds are right over here. You just go through the numbers, step 1, step 2, and you just go through, and then you make a mouse just by following that. You have 3 attributes here, strength, dexterity, and will. If any of you are familiar with Into the Odd, you'll know basically how these rules work. You have 1d6 hit points. You start off with a little bit of money. You get a birth sign, a coat, a physical detail, and lots of cool backgrounds here, which each give you 2 items. For example, you might be a bat cultist, which gives you the spell Darkness and a bag of bat teeth. We have inventory here. Inventory is slot-based, and it uses Last Gasp Grimoire's arts and crafts inventory system. So the physical copy that I was sent also came with these. Basically, here's your items. You actually cut them out, and you have them as tokens, and then on your character sheet, they will physically slot into sections on your sheet designed for that. So a little bit like the computer RPGs, where you have to sort of Jenga your, Tetris, your pieces together to make them all fit into the proper spaces. I really like that. I have actually run a game using this inventory system from the Last Gasp Grimoire blog, and it was a lot of fun. It was a little fiddly, but the upside is that your inventory and your items feel way more concrete, and you can like trade them back and forth with other players, and you actually feel like you're loading up your bag full of stuff. So it actually is quite fun. Here's a bunch of items that it comes with. So needles, axes, we've got weapons here. We have some armor, heavy armor and light armor, bows, and we've got big heavy weapons down here. We can see that the heavier stuff takes up 2 slots instead of 1. We also have these, which are torches, lanterns, and I think these are spell tablets here, each of which takes up a slot. And we also have condition cards, which are in red. So that's really cool. So as things get layered onto your character, like becoming exhausted, frightened, hungry, this looks a lot like the conditions that we find in Mouse Guard. They are actually going to take up inventory slots, which is a neat little mechanic because as you take more conditions, you can't carry as much stuff. Very cool. I like how it has lots of blanks too, so you can very easily make your own equipment to write in there. Of course, you can just print these off yourself. Rules on how to play. It's done on a single one-page spread. Excellent. I'm not going to be flipping back and forth through this stuff. I like how all of the rules not only have a title, but they also have a 5.1, which reminds me of the way that Troika is laid out. Magic spells. So this uses the Glog magic system. Basically, you have a number of dice, and when you cast a spell, you roll those dice, and a lot of times you want to get a high number. So you want those dice to be rolling high. That'll create a more powerful effect. But the dice that roll high, 4s, 5s, or 6s, get lost, and you only get the lower dice back again. So if you're rolling a lot of big spells, you can get a lot of effect done with them, but you're going to be running out of your magic faster. When a spell's usage dots are filled, because all of these have usage dots up here at the top, right? These circles, spells have those too. So they can get worn out and broken. The spell is depleted and cannot be cast. Each spell has a recharge condition. Fulfilling this condition will coax the spirit back to the spell and clear all of its usage dots. Whenever 1 or more 6s are rolled when casting a spell, the caster takes d6 damage to will for each 6 rolled. Then make a will save. If failed, take the mad condition. So magic is very dangerous in this particular system. A lot of these have different recharge conditions, and these are all stuff that are in fiction. For example, to restore your light spell, you need to catch in the first light of a sunrise. You need to catch in the first light of a sunrise and the last light of sunset for 3 days. So you need to hold up the spell and catch that light. Or to recharge an invisible ring, build an iron ring the same size as last cast. Pass the spell through it, dissolves the ring. So you need to physically do stuff in the world in order to get your spells back again when they run out. We have rules for recruiting help, including getting hirelings, building war bands, which is rules that we also found in Into the Odd, and which we often don't find in a lot of games. So that's really cool. Especially since you're mice, you're occasionally going to be fighting stuff that is much, much larger than you, in which case you're going to need a war band. Because a single mouse versus like a fox, there's nothing you can do. It's just too big. Rules for constructing things. GMing Mausritter, great. A single page with lots of concrete, specific things that you need to keep in mind while running. It's very principle-based. So it doesn't give you rules that you need to follow, but it keeps in mind these principles that are going to kind of guide you into getting into the headspace that the book wants you to be in. So make the world seem huge, present the world honestly, telegraph danger, reward bravery. When you're asking for a save, you want to know the consequences for failure, and you got some rules for luck rules and how to make rulings. Running the world, we have sections on exploration and overland travel, including when you have different seasons. You can roll on this table to generate different types of weather, which is really nice. That tells you that there is an emphasis here on overland travel and exploration. Encounter rolls. We have a whole bunch of your basic creatures here. Cats, fairies, ghosts, mouse, owl, rat, snake, and spider. And a really neat system here for language. So it says, as a general rule of thumb, the more closely related two creatures are, the more likely they are to be able to understand each other. Use the creature's taxonomy to make a ruling. Magical or highly intelligent creatures may break these rules. So if you're in the same species, you can communicate. If you're in the same family, then you can speak and communicate with some difficulty. If you're in the same class, for example, being a mammal, then make a will save to try and communicate. But if you're not even in the same taxonomic class, then you can't communicate at all. That's really neat. That's a nice, simple way to make those kinds of rulings. And lots of great little concrete detail here to add variety to the types of monsters that you might run into. We have a hex crawl toolbox, including a pre-built hex for you. So this reminds me of stuff from Maze Rats, where there is a very helpful toolkit here that is getting you up and running and is giving you stuff to use in game. So this is the Earldom of Ek. We have a hex crawl. We have lots of details here for each of the hexes. And we have a whole bunch of good random tables here for creating landmarks for countrysides, forests, rivers, and towns. We have landmark details that you can add onto there. Lots of stuff for settlements, including the inhabitants, notable features and events, how big the settlement is, adventure sites, things like the Rat King's Nest or a deep mine or a mouse settlement, a ruination that kind of turns it into a dungeon, things you might find there, secrets that you might find there, and lots of adventure seeds. So you can either roll once on this table and read straight across, or roll 3 times to get a combination of things. For example, you might have a creature that is an ale brewer, has a problem, which is that they've lost their mother, but the complication is that they've been framed. So there you go. You can run an adventure right off of that. We have lots of mouse names back here, including surnames, non-player mice, and appearances to give detail to your NPCs. And then a quick reference at the back. So this is a really great game in terms of how much it gives you for its size. It's highly dense, and it is not vague, which is the worst thing that a role-playing game can be. This gives you stuff to use, and a lot of the stuff is really good. So I'd strongly recommend this. The character sheet is not in here. It's probably just online, and I haven't printed it. But once you have printed that with this, and then you can print out some of these item cards, you are good to go. And I think players will have a really fun time just sort of building their inventories out of these little pieces and being mice in a dangerous world. Being a small character like this is kind of inherently OSR because the entire environment is there to kill you, right? Mice are not apex predators by any means. They're kind of at the bottom of the food chain, which is a very old school D&D social position to be in. So very cool game, and it's really attractive. I really love reading through it, and just lots of good ideas that are packed into a small space. So check it out below. I'll put links to where you can see it for yourself. And thanks for watching, everybody. I'll see you guys next time.